Hello everybody, Maven here, and is the Peculiar Charm worth farming the competitive Crucible playlist for? The Peculiar Charm is the first of its kind. It's a brand new archetype of 4 BURST SMG. It's basically a pulse rifle, but with the SMG range. But the big question is it good? Well, today I'll be breaking it down for both PvE and PvP, letting you know my honest thoughts and whether or not it is worth the grind, so let's break it down. Hope you enjoy. Shout out to our sponsor, Advanced GG, the #1 gaming supplement in the world. Use code MAVEN at checkout for 10% off. Link down below. Thank you. Alright, so let's take a look at this thing. I just so happened to be lucky enough to get a super juiced god roll so you can see it in its full glory. With extended mag and a backup mag, I can reach a maximum 72 in the magazine, which is absolutely massive. This thing shoots forever. And then I also got some pretty solid parts I can swap over to for Crucible and have like a super good balance of range and stability. Now, in terms of perks, in column 3, we got Rangefinder, Attrition Orbs, Impromptu Ammunition, Rapid Hit, Stopping Power, Shoot to Loot, and Lone Wolf. And in column 4, we got Firefly, Headseeker, All-Star, Kinetic Tremors, Master of Arms, Desperado, and Bewildering Burst. Now, let's first address these 2 brand new perks before we talk about the real god roll. So Stopping Power is the first new perk, and in a nutshell, this perk causes more flinch. So let me show you this test I did here, and the results were consistent and they also weren't. Against these knights here, a majority of the time, it took 2 bursts to cause them to stagger to the body, and then to the crit, it takes 1 burst to stagger. Now, like I said, it's relatively consistent, but sometimes it took like a million bursts to stagger, so I don't know what causes that. But anyways, I did that same test without Stopping Power. This is just at base, and it took 1 more burst to cause a stagger to the body, so it took 3 bursts total. And then to the crit, it took 2 bursts to stagger. So if you think about it, Stopping Power is kind of a survival-based perk because adds really can't fight back when they're in a stagger animation. So it's kind of a fine perk, but I wouldn't run it. There's better options. Now, we have another new perk here called All-Star, which buffs your damage and reload speed whenever you pick up ammo. And you can see my base damage here. And when I pick up this ammo box off the floor, you can see what my damage goes up to. And this weapon's damage is weird because your burst has 4 different damage numbers instead of just 1 consistent number. But the damage buff we receive here is a 15% buff for 6 seconds, but it's 10 seconds if the ammo brick was heavy. So it's really not the most exciting perk in the world because you would actually get more out of running Master of Arms. And I tested Firefly on this thing. You can see for yourself here, the explosion is absolutely laughable. The explosion damage does about half the damage of a single burst. It's extremely pitiful and could really use like a 500% buff in the future to even be considered. And then I tried Desperado on this thing, which will increase its RPM by what seems like almost nothing on this particular archetype. So personally, I wouldn't run it. But now let's talk about the real perk you're actually going to want in column 4, and that's Kinetic Tremors. And you can see here that it takes 4 bursts to trigger. And with 72 rounds in the magazine, we can reliably proc that multiple times per mag. And Tremors is what I believe to be the best primary perk in the game. Does so much damage. Those Tremors have no range fall off, so it essentially grants infinite range too. And you can see that I'm also pairing this weapon with the new artifact perk called Kinetic Synthesis, where sustained kinetic damage spawns a primary ammo brick which auto-reloads your weapon, so you can just go on a rampage with an infinite mag size so long as we keep an eye on those bricks, and we can pretty reliably maintain that 100% damage buff to our SMGs that we get out of running the Peacekeepers on Titan. And if we do need to reload, we got Rapid Hit in the left column to make it very fast, and it also makes the gun more stable. And I do believe this is the absolute PvE god roll, but I wouldn't argue with you if you chose Attrition Orbs in that first column for some extra build synergies. Now, when it comes to PvP, I am always a huge believer of Kinetic Tremors for greatly helping the forgiveness of your TTKs on most weapon types. But not today, because I tested it out, and remember, it doesn't take 12 shots to proc Tremors, it takes 13, which is at the start of your 4th burst, but it hardly matters because your 4th burst was gonna kill anyways. So this ain't it, chief. As for the weapon itself, it barely doesn't kill in 2 full bursts to the crit, but I was thinking maybe with the Stopping Power perk, it would, because it has that last line of text that says it deals more damage to weak targets. But unfortunately, as you can see in this clip here, 2 bursts, the damage remains the same, and then the 3rd burst goes up to 32 damage. So Stopping Power doesn't buff the current burst that makes them weak, it only buffs the next burst after they are already weak. So again, it's not good. Now, I really want to show some PvP gameplay, but no guarantees. I probably won't, because for the life of me, I could not get any good clips of this thing to save my life because it's incredibly difficult to use. The thing kicks like a mule. My roll may be juiced with extremely good range and stability, and I want to use it outside 20 meters, but it just doesn't want to land shots. Even with rapid hit, the thing is uncontrollable. And within 20 meters, I would much rather just have a normal SMG because they are far more consistent and easier to control. So this thing is honestly in kind of a range crisis where it has no particular range that it has any great strengths in. So Bungie, you went into the kitchen, you tried to cook, but I think the meal came out undercooked. We prefer it extra crispy, so please take it back in there and cook it for a few more minutes because it ain't done yet. But if you insist on using this SMG in the Crucible, what is the god roll? Well, in that left column, there's two options, Rapid Hit or Rangefinder. Remember, Rangefinder got a buff this season, so now it grants plus 10 range when aiming down sights. So it can be beneficial, but I would stick with Rapid Hit because I think this thing is crying for help when it comes to stability. And in that right column, Tremors ain't the way, so your options are probably between Headseeker, Desperado, and Master of Arms. Now, I'm not too big on Headseeker, and given how hard it is to use this thing, I wouldn't trust myself in proccing Desperado, so I would go with the more user-friendly option in Master of Arms, and that would allow a 2-burst. But in all honesty, I would not use this thing in PvP unless Bungie overhauls the feel of this thing entirely because it's super yucky right now. But when it comes to PvE, is this thing good? Is it worth the grind? Well, the TLDR, in my opinion, is no. I would rather stick with the gun burn with Bewildering Burst and Kinetic Tremors over this. And when I was recording some background gameplay with it in the Master Fire Team Ops, and I was just wishing the entire time that I had the Barrow Dyad instead, because this thing was just not doing it for me. But if you put every SMG on paper and look at the statistics, and no, I'm not talking about the weapon stats, I'm talking about the bigger picture. On paper, the Peculiar Charm is the best legendary SMG in the game, according to a spreadsheet made by the Aegis Relic, probably like the 10th time that I've shouted that guy out in the past month. But he is like the greatest damage tester in our community, and according to his spreadsheet of endless hours of testing and calculations, the Peculiar Charm stands well above the rest of the SMGs on paper. But big emphasis on paper because I think in actual gameplay, I'd rather use the gun burn not only for the ease of use of having a regular SMG, but also Bewildering Burst for blinding, which helps a lot. So one could say the Peculiar Charm is worth going for literally just to have it. But if you are not a picky hoarder, then in my opinion, it's not worth the grind. Keep in mind though, it's a brand new archetype, so there is a ton of wiggle room for it to be buffed in the future, and that's the only reason to consider going for it. And also, if there was a 4-burst SMG of every single element in the game, the Peculiar Charm would be the best of the bunch because Kinetic Tremors is the best primary perk in the game. So in terms of this archetype, in a hypothetical scenario where there are more of these in the game, this one would be the best of the best. So that may be another reason to consider going for it. So that's all I have for you today. Do with that information what you will. What do you think of this SMG? Let me know your thoughts in the comments and hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Your interaction is like leaving a cookie for Algorithm Santa. And if you are new here, be sure to subscribe for more spicy Renegades content on the way, and I hope you have a nice day.